Before I dive into what I want to talk to you about today, I want to share with you an epic story. Now, this epic story is found in this magazine called Boy's Life. And if you've ever had a scout in your life, you probably know what this magazine is. Now, this magazine's pretty old. It's dated back to 1998. But like I said, I want to share an epic story with you. This story is called A True Story of Scouts in Action. Boulders fell on the rafters. And I'm going to read it to you. It says, on July 30th, 1996, 30 scouts and parents from Burley, Idaho's Troop 23, rafting the Salmon River, were caught in a microburst, a super strong wind. In one raft, Ron Hall and his sons Randy, 16, and Curtis, 15, and Ray Anderson and his 14-year-old son John headed for shore, where Randy and Curtis secured the boat. A boulder fell off a rock bench above them, breaking in two. One piece knocked Mr. Anderson into the water and shattered his leg. John grabbed his dad and held him back into the raft. The second piece hit Mr. Hall in the head, plunging him face down into the water. Randy and Curtis, his arm cut by the falling rock, jumped in and pulled out their father. Mr. Hall was bleeding badly and drifting in and out of consciousness. Randy bandaged his father's head and Curtis's arm. John and others splintered Mr. Anderson's broken leg. They flagged down a jet boat driver who took them to a boat ramp where a helicopter evacuated the wounded. Now, wasn't that story epic? Probably not. It's got facts in it, but it's probably not going to be remembered. In fact, it's probably been thrown out by anyone who ever owned it. So you might be asking yourself, why do I have this magazine dated back from 1998? Well, the reason I have this is because this story is about my brother and about my dad. And that brings me to what I want to talk to you about today. I don't want to talk to you about not throwing out your old magazines, and I don't want to talk to you about scouting. What I want to talk to you about is writing your stories, just writing in general. Now, my father wrote down the story and he shared it with me, and it has meaning and emotion comes with it when he tells it. Now, what's left out of this story, what wasn't told, is that the microburst was so strong that it left huge trees in the water. And these trees were floating by my father, and these trees still had the roots attached to them. And also what that magazine doesn't tell you is that my father knew his leg was broken, and not because of the pain that he was in, but because he saw his heel floating up in the water. And the story also doesn't tell you that in between the time that the boys bandaged their fathers and the jet boat arrived, there was a priest of blessing that was administered. All of that detail was left out. But I know that detail because it was written down. Writing has so many great benefits, and I want to share with you why we should write. Now, statistically speaking, writing has so many benefits. We communicate better, it helps us eliminate stress, we're more productive, and we're happier. So all of those things are great. But there's more. There's even more reasons why we should write. President Spencer W. Kimball said, "Those who keep a book of remembrance are more likely to keep the Lord in their daily lives." Journals are a way of counting our blessings and of leaving an inventory of these blessings for our posterity. So we write for our posterity. And when I was younger, I started to do that. I started to write down in my journal day-to-day things that were happening. But as I look back at those journals, some of them are funny and interesting, but they're not very exciting. And that's because I didn't know how to write. I didn't know what to write about. So David McCullough, an American Pulitzer Prize winner and a National Book Award recipient, said, "Facts alone are never enough. Facts rarely, if ever, have any soul. In writing or trying to understand history, one may have all the manner of the data and miss the point. One may have all the facts and miss the truth. It can be like an old pianist's lament to her student. I hear all the notes, but I hear no music." So think about when you're writing, are your readers going to have emotion stirred up in them? And more importantly, when you write, are you going to have emotion stirred up in yourself? I didn't realize until I took a writing class how much emotion things had an impact on me. I wrote about a half marathon that I ran, I wrote about a complicated pregnancy. I even wrote about my son's hearing aids. And I didn't know how I felt about those things until I started to write about them. Flannery O'Connor, an American writer, said, "I write because I don't know what I think until I read what I say." And that is so profound. So many times we don't know what we think about something until we write it. And when we write down our stories, we find ourselves in the midst of a whole new story, one that has deeper meaning and a lot of feeling to it. So now we're not just writing for posterity, now we're writing for ourselves too. And as we release those emotions when we write, we start to change and we can start to better ourselves. So if you have strong feelings about something, maybe you can write it down. Now, a long time ago, when our family was young and we only had a few kids, Mother's Day was approaching. And in years past, we had gone to my mother-in-law's house. And I love my mother-in-law, but I didn't want to go there for Mother's Day anymore. I wanted to switch that up. I wanted to do something different. And it was frustrating to me and a little bit angering. And so I wrote down all my feelings, and I wrote them down because I wanted to share with them, to my husband. I wanted to tell him exactly how upset that those things made me. But what happened instead is that when my husband came to me to talk to me about what we were going to do for Mother's Day, I wasn't angry anymore. I had already written down all those emotions and let them out. And so I was able to articulate to him in a meaningful way what I felt because I already written it down. And I tossed it out. He didn't need to see that. So I was just able to say what I wanted to say without being angry. So write for your posterity, write to tell your story, write to release emotions. You can go online and finding workshops, writing workshops that you can enroll yourself in. You can even start by going to Google and type in things to write about. And lots of people will give you suggestions of what you can write about. Start there. What's going to be surprising to you is that you will find that as you write, the person most influenced by your writing most likely will be you.